No, my kids will run me a
Okay, folks, I'm gonna,
The other day.
here we go, folks. I'm gonna call to order the regular Board of Aldermen meeting, August 4th, 2022. If you would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you very much. Roll call, please.
Alderman Osteen.
Here.
Alderman Morose.
Here.
Alderman Ross.
Here.
Alderman Rucker.
Here.
Alderman Schuman.
Here.
Alderman Becker.
Here.
And Mayor Harmonson.
Here. All right. Thank you very much. All right, citizens communication. This is a time set aside on the agenda for citizens and visitors to address the mayor and board on any topic that is not a public hearing. For those here in person, speakers will be restricted to 3 minutes unless otherwise permitted. We do have a clock to assist. Minutes may not be donated or transferred from one speaker to another. Visitors attending online will be in listen-only mode. Any questions or comments from the mayor and the board may be sent to the city clerk at tberreth@osagebeach.org no later than 10 a.m. on the board meeting day, the first and third Thursday each month. Submitted questions and comments may be read during the citizens communications section of the agenda. The Board of Aldermen will not take any action on any item that is not listed on the agenda, nor will it respond to questions, although staff may be directed to respond at a later time. The Mayor and the Board of Aldermen welcome and value input from the feedback from the public. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to address the board at this time? All right. Seeing none, we're going to move on to mayor's communication, and we do have one this week. It's a proclamation authorizing the mayor for the National Health Week, August 7th through the 13th, 2022. Whereas community health centers provide preventative and primary care services to 30 million people and have continued to do so while facing a global pandemic. And whereas contribute to lower health care costs, reduce rates of chronic disease, and stimulate local economies, and the community health care centers are innovators who look beyond medical charts to address factors that may cause poor health, such as poverty, homelessness, substance abuse, mental illness, lack of nutrition, and unemployment. And community health centers are a critical piece of the healthcare system and collaborate with hospitals, local and state governments, social, health, and business organizations to improve health outcome for individuals. You are medically vulnerable, and the Central Ozark Medical Center, COMC, serves over 18,000 patients and provides more than 80,000 encounters and visits annually. And the COMC offers a wide range of services based on needs in the community to include medical, dental, and behavioral health regardless of insurance status. Now, therefore, I, Michael Harmonson, Mayor of Osage Beach, do proclaim August 9th, 2022 as COMC Day in the city of Osage Beach, and do hereby urge the citizens to show your support during National Health Center Week by supporting the services of Central Ozark Medical Center. In witness whereof, I hereby set my hand and cause the seal of the city of Osage Beach, Missouri to affect this 4th day of August 2022. All right. Next, we have, if the board so desires, have you had a chance to read the minutes and the bills list? If so, if the board desires, the consent agenda may be approved by a single motion. Any comments or questions, or do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Alderman Becker got you by a second. All right. Alderman Rucker seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right. We don't have any, we don't have anything for you, do we, Phyllis? Any liquor? Okay. All right, moving on. Bill 17-73, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri to approve the redevelopment project for the Osage Beach Common Tax Increment Financing Plan, activating the collection of tax increment financing revenues therein. This is the second reading, and I believe you're going to take this over, aren't you?
Sure.
I will.
Okay.
I stuck it on there, okay. As you guys know, there are three essential pieces of legislation the board passes to authorize a tax increment financing project. There's the plan, the redevelopment agreement, and this is what we call the project ordinance. It literally authorizes the diversion of money into the special allocation fund and the rest of the funding agreements that you already agreed to. This bill was originally filed in 2017. It dates back to the beginnings of the Osage Beach Commons TIF. That is, it must by statute be filed within 10 to 90 days after the board approves a tax increment financing plan. However, it then authorizes TIF. Well, it has to be started within 10 years, okay? So we're clearly within 10 years from 2017. The bill was first read in 2017, but as the developer has requested the city proceed with TIF, that is, authorize the TIF funding, this is the final legal housekeeping. This will be a second reading of this bill, which is it essentially starts off the TIF benefits to the developer for the Osage Beach Commons and the Hobby Lobby store, which will open next month.
All right, thank you very much. Comments or questions from the board? Alderman Becker.
Do we know what the vote was on the first reading?
I believe the vote was unanimous.
Just
Give me 2
curious.
seconds and I'll tell you.
Pretty sure it was.
Unanimous.
I think so too.
I have the minutes right here. First reading was unanimously passed on a voice vote.
Thank you.
All right, any other comments or questions? Alderman Osteen.
Maybe it's just me, but this seems off to me. It could be the verbiage in the ordinance or the fact that this is a second reading. I can't quite comprehend why this is a second reading. So basically, per the verbiage on here, the original TIF plan for Osage Beach Commons was never fully adopted, correct? Because that was the first reading only.
No, the plan was fully adopted.
So then why does the verbiage state we are here to approve the redevelopment project for the Osage Beach Commons tax increment financing plan?
Well,
That's basically
it's
stating that we are.
Okay, well, I cannot tell you from 6 years ago why our consultant from Gilmore Bell wrote the bill title that way. I can tell you that what this legally does, okay, is it activates the collection and diversion of the payments in lieu of taxes and the economic activity taxes pursuant to that TIF plan and redevelopment agreement. It has to be adopted within that time frame by state statute. It then does not go into full effect and don't do a second reading until the developer is ready to proceed. Because of the development schedule and because of COVID, this board in fact extended the development schedule on Osage Beach Commons because of COVID at the developer's request. And so this is the final step to fulfill the purposes of the plan and the redevelopment agreement. In other words, to authorize the diversion of the taxes.
I understand the purpose, but once again, just reading the verbiage on it as a second reading, we are being asked to approve the TIF program that was initially approved through a first reading in 2017. That's why I'm reading verbatim how this reads. Like I said, I just can't wrap my head around it because it seems off to me. And I understand what we're trying to do here, but once again, I don't think what we're being presented here really supports what we're trying to do with the verbiage in that ordinance. Because it makes it sound as if the TIF plan was never approved. It went through a first approval, end of story. This is the second reading to approve that now. Correct? Or am I the only one who's interpreted it that way?
This is the second reading to approve
To
this
approve the
bill.
TIF plan.
Okay. No, the plan was already approved.
Yes.
Okay.
So why does it say we're approving the TIF plan?
Again, I can't tell you, Alderman Osteen. I'm not the person that
Okay.
drafted this.
I'm
This
just
is
throwing
David
it out there.
Bushek from Gilmore Bell. The only legislative effect you all have when you pass this begins on page 27 of 107, where it says, "Now therefore be it ordained by the Board of Aldermen," and it starts sections 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and goes on. Okay? In terms of why that title is chosen from 6 years ago, I can't tell you.
That's all I'm stating was, it seemed a little off to me how this is being presented to us. Once again, Ed, I know you didn't write this. It just seemed off to me, and I'm not sure if any other aldermen agree with me or if I'm insane here. But if you read it verbatim, it sounds as if we're just now approving this TIF program. That's all I have to say.
All right, any other comments or questions?
I guess I have a question. So This was a project that took a while,
Yes.
and they all tend to take a while. So is this common practice for us to do only a first reading on the plan and, while the development agreement was, we're just doing the plan, and then we wait until it's like, for lack of a better term, substantially completed before we start reimbursing, and that's why the second reading is delayed?
The common practice is, and our practice has always been, that we pass the TIF plan.
Okay?
Once there's a TIF plan that designates the TIF area and the project, okay, we enter into a redevelopment agreement with the selected developer. That's the TIF redevelopment agreement. We also, by statute, because the statute doesn't survive contact with the real economic world, okay? We then adopt and proceed with the first reading of what we call this project ordinance, this ordinance that diverts the revenue, okay? And that we don't pull that final trigger until the developer is ready to go. In other words, since they only have 23 years, if you'd pulled that final trigger 6 years ago, the numbers wouldn't work on the development of Osage Beach Commons because nothing would have happened for the last 6 years.
Got it. Okay, so we could, effectively, we could not have a second reading till almost 10 years later?
Yes.
Okay.
Depending on the development agreement. Now, in the development agreement for Osage Beach Commons, the schedule that the developer agreed to was to build within 4 years. Because we hit the economic downturn and the hiccup in terms of COVID-19, we knew they were going to blow their 4 years, okay? We talked to them about it. They said to us as staff, will you guys extend? We brought that to the Board of Aldermen. You all adopted an amended ordinance and allowed the extension. They have met the extended timeline here.
That's all I have, thank you.
Anyone else? Alderman Schuman?
Just a quick question. So then does the 23 years start now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just double check.
All right. Any other comments or questions?
And actually, for clarity, they don't have 23 years. Do they? Didn't their agreement have less than 23?
Off the top of my head, Alderman Rucker, I cannot recite you the detail like that.
No.
But maximum.
Maximum.
Maximum
Yeah,
under the statute is
the
23
maximum
years.
is 23, but, okay.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve second reading?
So moved.
Alderman Becker, do I have a second? Alderman Ross, roll call, please.
Alderman Becker,
Yes.
Alderman Osteen,
I guess.
Alderman Schuman,
Yes.
Alderman Morose,
Yes.
Alderman Rucker,
Yes.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
All right, ordinance passed. All right, moving on. Bill 22-53, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, authorizing the expenditure of funds for the LOZ Visual Arts Organization, Laws and Plain Air Art Festival event support request in an amount not to exceed $2,000. This is the second reading, and our city administrator is tending to a newborn grandchild, so Mike Welty is going to be taking on. Do you have any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the second reading?
Motion to approve.
Alderman Osteen, we have a second.
Second.
Alderman Morose, roll call, please.
Alderman Schuman,
Yes.
Alderman Morose,
Yes.
Alderman Rucker,
Yes.
Alderman Becker, Alderman Osteen,
Yes.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Moving on, in the next bill, we have Bill 22-55, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, amending Section 340.150, manner of operation of motor vehicles, careful and prudent. This is the second reading. Chief Davis, please.
Nothing further unless you guys have questions.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and say something here before moving on. I just want you to know, before you discuss this or vote on this, that as the mayor and as a business owner, I'm fully in support of this ordinance. I did receive a personal Facebook message a day or two ago, and I'm going to read it because it said that they tagged my personal Facebook page, and they said that this was so vague that they could legally give you a ticket for waving at a policeman, showing your support for the men in blue, and to contact your alderman. And so I asked back, could you please let me know in the reading where does it say that? So I just wanted to clear, as a business owner and as a mayor, I'm fully in support of this. It is not revenue-driven. It is not to give the police more power. It's simply to protect persons and property. In doing some legal checking, we did find out, as an ordinance, businesses don't have an ability to opt in or opt out. As a business owner, a lot of times, as a property owner, you may not like some of the city ordinances, but you don't have the ability to opt out of this one, opt into that one. So with that being said, I just kind of wanted to give my 2 cents worth. And with that, do we have any comments or questions from the board? I'm sorry, Alderman Rucker.
Couple of comments. First of all, Chief, this ordinance will only allow the officers to, use policing powers to take care of prudent and careless and
Careless and prudent driving.
careless and prudent driving. Okay. Because I know at the last meeting, there was some comments made. I just want to make sure we're clear on it, because I heard comments made by some people that, oh, well, parking tickets and speeding tickets, it's just careless and
Careless
prudent.
and prudent driving.
That's all it pertains to. Okay. Secondly, just to make clarity, as the mayor did say, I did offer a amendment after our last meeting, and after further discussion with legal counsel, as the mayor had indicated, found that it was not appropriate, and the legal portion of it, I got an explanation, I got a education, and it wasn't a simple, quick answer. It was about a half-hour explanation, because I can be stubborn once in a while. But anyway, and I'm thoroughly understand it, and therefore that's why I'm not going to pursue my amendment. And if there's any further discussion or any further information needed other than that, the attorney can take it.
All right. Anyone else, comments or questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve second reading?
Motion to approve.
Alderman Rucker, Alderman Schuman, a second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Becker.
Yes.
Alderman Osteen.
Yes.
Alderman Schuman.
Yes.
Alderman Morose.
Yes.
Alderman Rucker.
Yes.
Alderman Ross.
No.
All right, motion carries. All right, moving on to new business. Bill 22-59, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri for additions and amendments to Chapter 405 Zoning Regulations, Article 5, Signs. This is the first reading. City Planner Kerry Patterson, please.
Yes, good evening. Couple things for you tonight. The first thing that we have, if you remember a few meetings ago, the Board of Aldermen approved an increase in size of digital signage for large lot commercial businesses. And at that time, Alderman Rucker wasn't going to be at the meeting, but he caught me outside and he asked about, do we have any controls on the brightness of these signs? And then at the time, our code didn't have anything within it. You know, we've all driven down the highway and we've come across, you know, or come up on that digital sign that just about blinded us and put spots in our eyes while we're trying to. We didn't have anything to control that, and I told Alderman Rucker at the time that I would take a look at it and see what there is out there. What I will tell you is that it's somewhat vague, but there is some stuff out there as far as control goes. And I worked with not only the state of Missouri to see what they had by way of control, but I also got in touch with the local off-premise sign companies that have these type of signs, and did quite a bit of work with Lamar because they were very open with it. So the function of what I have for you tonight is basically 2 lines added to the sign code. The first is the definition of a NIT, N-I-T, which is a term used to describe a metric unit of luminance that is defined as 1 candela per square meter. I have no idea how we would check into that, other than there's a piece of equipment that the state has offered to lend us and help us use if we ever do have need to approach any of our sign companies. And apparently Public Works has one too, so that will be great. I'll let them go measure the sign. And then the second, under prohibited signs, added in as number 11, is signs that give off a level of luminance greater than 300 nits during the daytime, which is defined for the purposes of this section as the time 30 minutes prior to sunrise to 30 minutes after sunset and signs that give off a level of luminance greater than 100 nits during the nighttime, which is defined for the purposes of this section as the time 30 minutes prior to sunset to 30 minutes after sunrise. Okay. So how I got to these numbers is mostly through my conversation with the state and through Lamar Advertising. The state of Missouri outdoor signage has a 300 nit requirement at any time. You can never have your sign go over 300 nits, okay? And in talking to Lamar actually, one, thanked me for calling, thanked the city of Osage Beach for considering this type of ordinance because they said sign companies that allow their signs to get get too bright, give them all bad names. And, they appreciated us taking a look at it. What they then instilled in me and gave to me after that point was that all of their signage, the majority, if not all, digital signage has a sensor eye that senses the amount of darkness outside and controls the brightness of the sign. And that's what controls the sign brightness up and down. The sign brightness during the day is not the same as it is at night. And what they told me is that at night, after nightfall, most of theirs go down to around 60 to 65 nits. And so with that, and in talking to the state, I went ahead and instilled in our requirement a nighttime requirement that was less than the 300, which I put in as 100. So during the day, we will be the same as the state. They can get up to as much as 300 nits. After night, once the sun goes down, their sign must be below 100 nits. And what I will tell you is from the conversations that I had, we won't have any problems with that. That for the most part, all of our digital signs go well below 100 at night. So this just, like a lot of our other ordinances, gives us something in case of the worst case scenario. We have a sign that's just way too bright during the day or night, and a sign owner that doesn't want to do anything to help remedy that. And this, of course, is absolutely 100% a safety issue regulation. When these signs are too bright, they cause, undue stress on traffic and the vision in the area of the signs, and that's what we are trying to make sure that we have some control of. And with that, I took this to the Planning Commission at their last meeting, and they sent it forward to the Board of Aldermen with a recommendation to approve.
Thank you very much, Gary.
Yes, sir.
Comments or questions from the board? Alderman Schuman.
I have a little question. So with the way that this number 11 is written, so it says daytime goes to 30 minutes after sunset, but nighttime starts 30 minutes prior to sunset. So you've got like an hour window there where it's day and night. It says daytime goes from 30 minutes prior to sunrise to 30 minutes after sunset. Then nighttime starts, so that would be 30 minutes after sunset. Nighttime starts 30 minutes prior to sunset. So 30 minutes before sunset is when your nighttime starts, but your daytime doesn't end till 30 minutes after the sunset.
So you've got an hour there where there's no order.
It's day and night.
Did I put the wrong?
I read that, and to be very honest, I said, I don't know I know what the intent is, and I just kind of.
Well, I'm just making sure, just because it does say the daytime runs until 30 minutes after the sunset, so that'd be 30 minutes past sunset.
Yeah.
But the nighttime starts 30 minutes before the sun sets. So your night starts 30 minutes before the sunset, but your day doesn't end till 30 minutes after the sunset, so you've got, your day and night are overlapping there.
Well, yeah, I mean, if we need to make that change.
I'm just asking if anybody got caught up in that area of, no, it was technically still daytime, no, it was nighttime, because it's in that.
Well, I think we know the intent, Carrie. You want to just get a first
Now,
reading here and then
I'll
we'll.
look at it. I'll look at it and make sure.
sorry.
I mean, I read it 100 times myself and I thought I was good, but of course it would take an engineer's wife to figure that out.
Hey, to be fair, I am an auditor as well, so this is what I do all day.
I don't know. Never been audited. So I will take a look at the
Okay.
ideology is that the verbiage will jive, and I'll
Just bring
look
it
at
to the
it
second
again.
reading.
I mean,
Bring it up before the
I-
second reading, yeah.
Yeah, before
Yes.
the second reading, so.
Okay, very good.
We know what the intent.
Any other comments or
Right.
questions from the board then? Alderman Ross?
So first of all, I applaud you for trying to put some science and, how would I say, standards that are definable. But the only question, and I think you've gotten some great progress other than the sunrise sunset thing. I think you do have an hour gap on each side if I
Okay.
read this right. But anyway, how far away? In other words, if I got a quote nit meter, which I've never heard of before, but I'm learning with you, okay, am I standing 10 foot away, 100
Right
yards
in front
away?
of it.
Huh?
Right in front of the sign.
Should we
I
say
would-
that?
I think that it needs to be said.
I agree.
You know, well, at 6 feet or less, whatever the case may be, especially when you got one that's 20 foot high. I'm not sure.
I know that the states didn't have, they just go right up to the face of the sign. So they didn't have anything that defined that. This is not.
So 1 foot or less. I mean,
Yeah,
you know, that's okay. Put that in there.
Okay, that's fine. I can do
Because some
that as
guy's
well.
gonna go, well, hey, my property's way down here. Why, how come you're not measuring it down? Not guy, I'm sorry, some person down here at the end of my property. And
So
why are you
me-
standing up
measured
here
within
instead of
a
down at the
foot-
end of my
Measured
property?
within a foot of sign face.
Something like that.
2 foot or whatever.
Yeah, whatever the case is best. But I
Alright.
think that definition will help us in the future potentially.
Okay.
Very good. Anyone else?
Question.
All right, seeing none, he's going to work on that, but do I have a motion to approve the first reading?
Motion approved.
Alderman Ross, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Morose, beat you by a hair. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. All right, next we're going to move on to Bill 22-60, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, repealing and replacing Chapter 405 zoning regulations, Article 9, if I'm reading that correctly, off-street parking and loading requirements, the first reading. Again, the city planner, Carrie Patterson.
Yes, so this is something, it's here in two different sections, B and C. But the two go together, so I will explain them together. And then because it's two different documents that we are making amendments to, the city ordinance, and then the design guidelines, it has to be done separately. But I want to explain them together because it makes more sense with them together. Back in 1987, the city adopted the requirement that any use above two-family residential parking would be hard surface parking within the community. So multifamily residential all the way through commercial into industrial by way of the parking requirements, okay? Back in those days, city attorneys tended to say, hey, less is more. Well, we had an issue, an enforcement issue on a piece of property zoned industrial recently where a little quip that was in the design guidelines threw off what we had been enforcing in the community since 1987. And that was that the parking portion of lots within industrial properties and industrial zones would be paved, but it would allow the property portion of lots that have product storage, component storage, loading, any of that type of stuff can be an approved aggregate within an industrial zone only, not within a commercial zone. But for the sake of why we got into this in the first place, if you will look at the portion of the design guidelines where you have the red and the lines through it, our main issue came under letter B. Number one, were all public and commercial facilities, and then within the quotation marks, except those in areas zoned as industrial, was in there. And basically, Ed's opinion of that comment was not that it allows, non-hard surface parking on certain types of uses within the industrial zone. It basically just says nobody in an industrial zone has to pave anything. And the main problem with that is our light industry zone allows everything that is allowed within the C1 zone. So you can have restaurants in the I1 zone, you can have shopping centers in an I1 zone. So that causes a substantial issue. So basically, Ed, from a perspective of enforcement, asked us to take a look at what we have and make it more understandable and make it read the way that we have been enforcing since 1987. And that's what you have in front of you with the two documents that you have, okay? What I tried to do for the most part is to separate the what from the how, okay? The zoning code tells the developer what they need to build, okay? How many parking spaces, how much asphalt, how much green space, that's the what. The design guidelines are meant to tell the developer how they need to build it. How deep, how thick does the asphalt need to be? Where does the drainage need to go? All of those things. So the problem with what we had before is there was a little bit of how that was mixed into my what, and a little bit of the what mixed into the how. So basically what I've tried to do is clarify what we have by taking portions out of the zoning code and putting them where they belong in the design guidelines. And there was really anything that was in the design guidelines that talked about what, we just removed it completely because it's already addressed in the zoning code. The one thing that I will bring to your attention is we did make changes into section 405-665, which at the time was called the handicapped parking space requirements. We don't use the terminology handicap anymore, so we've changed that out simply just to put ADA parking space requirements. And then we removed all the requirements that were listed in there simply because they did not work with what the ADA requires now, and that's what we've adopted. So with the simple statement, ADA parking shall be in accordance with the minimum accessible parking spaces shall be required by the current Americans with Disability Act. Basically what that says is when the ADA changes their requirements, our requirements will change with them. And that's the way that we need to do it to protect ourselves and the community anyway. The other thing that I have would be under section 405-670, which would be in the improvement of parking areas and parking lots. And I've struck out what was in there originally, which basically called out the different zones that were required to have hard surface parking. And we've put in the zones and the uses within what we had, what we put in there now, along with how we will take care of the industrial properties that want to use an approved aggregate on portions of their lot, because we still need to have plans on those, because we still have drainage issues in the city of Osage Beach. So regardless of if it's concrete or asphalt or an aggregate, they still need to be reviewed and approved so that we know that they're controlling stormwater runoff off of their parking facilities. And that's what that basically does. Ed's comment to me was, there might have been a time where, if it doesn't say that you have to do it, then you don't have to do it. But now we need to be specific. So that is what we wrote in there. And with what I have within the what, just references the design guidelines, which the old code did not reference the design guidelines. Now it does. It says, this is what you have to build, and this is the document that you will need, that will need to be referenced in how you will build that. And that's basically what the two different amendments to both the zoning code and then to the design guidelines do. While we were doing these changes and looking into this, it was myself and Dave and Mike and Ron White that looked at it, and I requested that Dave take a look at the design guidelines to see if there was anything that needed to be updated, because that portion of the code hadn't been updated since 1998. And the changes that you see within the design guidelines are changes that are more up to date to today's requirements and standards. And he's obviously a better person to answer any questions that you might have about that, because we all know engineers have their own language and I don't speak it. So with that, I took both of these changes to the Planning Commission at their last meeting, and they forwarded them to you with a recommendation to approve.
Very good. Thank you. Comments or questions from the board? Alderman Osteen.
This one is totally off topic, but a reminder that when we're printing hard copies for the board of our packets, do that in color. Because when we reference red or other colors, we're still getting black and white copies.
Okay.
Thought this was discussed a few meetings ago.
All right, Alderman Ross.
Real quick on page, I guess it's 77, item K. The minute, this was
Hold on a
removed.
second, Richard, please.
I'm sorry?
Hold on a second.
Sure. Page 77, item K, about
Okay.
3/4 of the way
Fine,
down.
Fine, I'm with you.
We're removing, and I'm not, there may be a good reason I'm trying to understand. The minimum, what this means, the minimum radius edge for edge of pavement at entrance and exit shall be 20 feet. We're removing that. So does that mean it can be a 90-degree turn into a parking lot?
As I was sitting here, I saw that same thing, and I want to go back and look at our notes on when we were going through the review this to understand exactly what that was. Because I think what you're getting at is exactly right. That's dictating that there be some minimum radius to create
Yeah,
good
I mean-
accessible entrances with good geometry.
Right. My concern is people are going to have to be slowing down to like almost zero to make the turn, and that's just going to cause, especially on like the parkway, some congestion that may not be needed. Usually there's some type of flare, I'll just call it a flare at this point, and maybe we meant to put something else in there that's a better radius, but just to remove it seems edgy to me.
I agree. I'll look into that and get an answer to you.
All right,
And back to Karen.
very good. Anyone else? So this is the first reading, so what's that?
Do we want to hold this?
Well, that's what, Mike, do you want to hold this, or similar to the other one, do you want to move forward knowing that they're going to address that?
Just first reading, so.
First reading, you okay with that, Alderman Ross?
I'm fine with that, as long as it's okay with Ed from a legal standpoint to change that on the second reading.
Yeah, you
Okay.
make an amendment at the
That's
second
fine.
reading.
Very good.
No problem.
The board's intent, I think, is pretty clear here.
Sure.
It's not like you're doing one thing this week and then shuffling the cards around.
Fair enough.
Very good. All right, we'll change that, but given that, do I have a motion to approve the first reading?
Motion to approve.
Alderman Osteen, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Roos. All those in favor? Aye. All right, motion carries. Next, we have Bill 22-61, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, amending the Osage Beach Design Guidelines, Section 5, Roads, Streets, and Parking Areas, first reading. It's Carrie Patterson night.
This is what we just discussed, so we can still do the first reading, and we will come back with you, or Dave will come back with you with an answer to Alderman Ross's question, and hopefully a change to make it whatever it should read.
Very good. Any further comments or questions from the board? If not, do I have a motion to approve first reading?
Motion to approve.
Alderman Rucker, second. Alderman Schuman. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Next, we have a motion to approve the purchase of Office 365 licenses from /Technologies for an amount not to exceed $30,000. IT Manager Michael Bean, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. As stated by the mayor, this is an approval not to exceed $30,000. Currently, we have 122 total licenses active for the amount of $27,245. The $30,000 that is requested and was previously budgeted is giving us room for more employees to be hired, just gives us a little bit of a cushion. Again, this was approved, this was budgeted, and I recommend approval.
All right, thank you very much. Comments or questions from the board? Alderman Osteen.
I was a little alarmed on the deadline for action, saying our renewal date is early August 2022. We are August,
Yes, sir.
early 2022, so do we still have some time, or we something happens tomorrow, or?
We are currently on the day of renewal as of right now, but I've got a hold of our Microsoft rep, and they've given us through the end of August, so.
Okay,
Early August was the deadline, but we have through the month pending approval.
okay.
Very good. Any other comments or questions? Alderman Rose.
I'm just curious, this /Technology, did we get any other bids from any other company, or is this just sort of take it for granted we always use them?
We took a number of years ago, and I was involved in the process along with the two Michaels. I was the one that didn't know much about it. They did. And we interviewed a number of firms, and chose this firm to be our IT consultants.
And they are also a Microsoft reseller and obviously
Okay.
our partner, so that's,
I'm just curious. Thank you.
yes,
All
ma'am.
right. Anyone else? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve first reading? Alderman Schuman, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Morose, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Next, we have a motion to approve the purchase of 3 submersible pumps for lift station CL17 on KK and 3 Seasons Road from Municipal Pump Company Incorporated for an amount not to exceed $99,594.96. Public Works Operations Manager Kevin Crooks, please.
Thank you, Mayor. This concerns the lift station CL17, which is on Highway KK, at the intersection of Highway KK and 3 Seasons. It conveys all the wastewater from Tantera and towards the inner city. It is a 3-phase 58 horsepower triplex station, meaning there's 3 pumps in it normally. 2 of the 3 pumps were found to be bad. If you remember, SCADA had been out for several months at the beginning of the year. SCADA is now back. But it had been running on 1 pump for some undetermined amount of time. We don't know how long. And these 2 of the 3 pumps must be replaced or repaired. We can get into repair in a minute, but the 3rd pump being the same age, I decided to go for all 3 pumps. The lead time typically on a pump of that size is now 16 to 18 weeks under standard delivery terms. That's, a bit unacceptable because, again, we're riding on 1 pump on a triplex that is a heavy volume mover station. As such, that's why I decided to go for all 3 pumps. They're all of a similar age, and what's kind of made worse is by the fact that the station's been riding on this 1 pump for some months. We're not sure again when exactly died. The quick ship fee has been added to 1 pump of the 3 so we can get it between 3 and 4 weeks from now and not in mid-November or the first week in November. What they hit us for that is $4,484.52 to basically bump us in front of the line in the supply chain. That's pretty much it. I will speak a little bit about rebuilding. It's something we've been doing even earlier this year. And pump rebuilds just a couple years ago made a lot of economic sense. And you've notice the last one we did was TL003. We found at that point that pump rebuilds have become economically, we're upside down on them, meaning that the cost that goes into the parts in the pump exceed over 50, and actually we're well into the 75-80% price of a new pump to have them rebuilt, which just doesn't make a lot of sense. A rebuilt pump has a shorter life than a brand new pump and obviously doesn't have the warranty. So we're quickly getting away from rebuilding pumps, whereas just a couple years ago it made a lot of sense, and these times that we're in, it stopped making sense, so to speak. That's why you'll see us getting away from rebuilds until the conditions change, where there's more advantages economically to rebuild pumps. And that's why I'm, again, asking for the approval for the purchase of 3 pumps. So all told, $99,594.96, not to exceed, from Municipal Pump Company or our standard pump company or spec pump company, if you will. And I recommend approval.
Very good. Thank you, Kevin. Comments or questions from the board? Alderman Ross.
So Kevin, a couple of things. One, how did we find out that these pumps were bad?
We found out they were bad once when SCADA came up. If you maybe heard me talk about human SCADA when we were doing the daily checks with human labor on 88 stations, that takes 6 hours. It takes one individual 6 hours to check these stations. If we were going into detail where we'd actually check what SCADA could tell us, it tells us the runs, the starts on each pump. If those pump starts and runs become off of, like, say, 666, and you have 12 and 1, something's wrong. we weren't getting that data because to do rounds in that, to that extent it would probably take 12 hours or more for a single individual. So for, again, back from May, when SCADA initially dropped out, we've been doing, again, what I call human SCADA, and all that really consisted of is an environmental check, meaning we were checking the stations to make sure we weren't spilling, 5,000 gallons a minute into the lake. We could not go into that kind of detail because of the number of stations we had. It just wasn't feasible to take that much labor away from our normal day-to-day operations. So once SCADA came back, it was quite evident that we were riding on just one pump at this station. So really it was not more than 3 weeks ago is when this presented itself.
So this wasn't one of the stations that we contracted municipal equipment to review, rehab, or at least assess? Was this not one
Yeah,
of those?
absolutely. It was in there. And literally at the point that SCADA ended, they came in and we already knew, we knew we had a problem. They megged the pumps. They basically were found to be gone to ground, meaning the stators are bad. Electrically, they won't run. So it was kind of a meeting at 2 points where SCADA came back and the lift station assessment also identified it as what we already suspected as 2 bad pumps of 3.
Okay, so I guess because I did talk to municipal equipment today and they weren't sure. So the question is, do we have any more stations that we haven't got an assessment for that we do? I realize we didn't do every station in the city.
Right. We did the big ones, correct. The 3-phase stations. We're coming to the back end of that project. It's probably 80% done. They've saved the big stations for last. They saved the best for last. So we have the biggest ones left. They started with a smaller 3-phase stations, the 17s, and now they're at 60s and 70s. They have not done stations like the one you've been to at Tantera, TL003, Sands,
There's
Rock.
still some left.
There are
Still
the
more of
big ones. The big ones are left, yes.
And so the last question is, did we get any even verbal quotes on what they're charging now for rebuilding 58 horsepower pumps?
I didn't even ask because of that station that you and I were at earlier this summer. We did get a quote for a new pump after the fact. We found that honestly, I should have bought a new pump. We're waiting for that pump at TL003. And that was a bad choice, just to be honest, because I was up at 70% of the price of a new pump for that rebuild, which I still don't have. I'm still waiting for that rebuild to come back. And in hindsight, after I got that price, I was like, I blew it. I should have bought a new pump.
Well, I tend to agree that anything 60, 70%,
Yeah,
over 60%, you're probably better to buy new. I just wondered if we got pricing. It's going to go up and down, but I think prices are going to come back down.
I hope it goes down.
If it's going to continue to be that rebuilding pumps is 70 to 80% of new cost, pump rebuilders are gone.
Yeah, they're not doing a lot of it, that's for sure.
And so, but, then I don't know what they're going to be doing. They're going to be trying to find a job, I guess. So we just need to keep an eye on it. That's all I have.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Comments or questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve first reading?
Motion to approve.
Alderman Rucker, do I have a second? Second. Alderman Becker. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Last thing on the agenda, we have a discussion item. It's the Osage Beach Private Road Assessment. We have Assistant City Attorney Mike Welty, please.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the board. This is something I've been working on for a couple of months now. You may recognize the priority list in here as it says in the notes here. This is something that Alderman Ross did with one of our former engineers several years back. And he reintroduced this to me earlier this year as the priority list that we have used for several years in coordination with the Osage Beach Special Road District as we evaluate these private roads that we would like to get up to some semblance of city design guidelines and bring into the city inventory. You may remember that last year we did this with Wren, and this year, hopefully still this year, we're going to be doing this with Amy Lane. Additionally, I think some of the other roads have also been addressed on this list. I think that Rowan Road has been addressed and is already in city inventory. And there may be some other roads a little further down the list that the Special Road District has taken care of themselves without any city assistance. I've been to several of the Osage Beach Special Road District meetings over the last couple of months, and we've kind of agreed with them that the priority really is the top 8 on the list there. So one of the top priorities on that list is Clearwood Lane, which there is a quote enclosed for Clearwood Lane. Additionally, we've had a lot of discussion amongst the board at some of our budget workshops and also discussion with the Special Road District about Aver Road. Enclosed in this packet here, you will find 3 separate quotes for Aver Road, which provide different costs based upon different things that we would do with that road to bring it up to some semblance of meeting city guidelines. So what myself and Dave are really looking for today is some guidance on which one of these roads you would like us to put into the 2023 budget, or if there is any other priorities on this list that you want us to kind of move to next. But really just looking to have a discussion. I know that Alderman Ross will probably have some things to say about this, but really just looking to have a discussion and get some guidance from the board on what direction you want us to go with and which one of these roads you would like us to budget for in the 2023 budget. Now, I can tell you that the Special Road District is kind of waiting for this discussion before they decide how much support or if they will support at all whatever is decided here. So as after this discussion, I'll be going back to the Special Road District meeting next and updating them on what we say here, although I know Ron is here very patiently listening to what might go on here. But I know that they will likely want to help us at least some with one of these roads, but they're really just looking to get some direction, just like we are, on what what direction the board would like to go in. So with that, I'll kind of open it up, and myself or Dave Van Leer are happy to answer any questions concerning the quotes that are enclosed.
All right, Alderman Becker.
So can someone clarify to me why we're looking at doing Aver Road when it's not one of the top 8?
The reason why Aver Road is included is because it was a hot topic of discussion at the budget workshops. And so, yes, it is not one of the top 8. I think it's the 9th. But because it was a major topic of discussion at the last workshops, Alderman Becker, we included it. And you may remember that the board did direct us to get quotes for Aver Road.
Can I add something to that answer, if you don't mind?
Alderman Ross.
The reason, only because of that question, most of Aver Road lies in Miller County and the Kaiser Special Road District, okay? Now, the Osage Beach Special Road District can start a project in the Camden County portion of Osage Beach and extend into Miller County. But because it was so complicated and because, and by the way, at that time, it wasn't in quite as bad a shape, I'm not even sure we actually looked at it. I'd have to go back and dig through some worksheets, okay? And if, Mike, if you happen to know, if it was 9, okay, but I'm not sure we even got that far. Because we never felt like that the Osage Beach Special Road District was going to have a lot of, Nick and I at that time had a lot of interest in talking about it because the major portion that needed to be repaired was in Miller County or the Kaiser Special Road District, which doesn't have enough funds to take care of the gravel roads they have based on their tax levy. So that may be part of that.
One extra comment I will add, I did reach out to the Kaiser Special Road District, and I can confirm that they have no interest or intention in assisting us with bringing this road up to city standards.
Alderman Rucker.
Couple of things. First of all, the original list started out about back in the early 2000s, shortly after I came on the board, because it was a election hot button for me. And so that's when the original, and I happen to have it on my computer, if you don't have it, or if Kevin doesn't have it, but I have a list of every street in the city. The streets that are in the city that are city inventory, and a list of the streets that are in the city that are private. The length of them, the width of them, and the composition of them. This was something that was done originally, the first draft was done quite some time back. And to try to look at just what we had, because again, it was a hot button for me, and I said, well, how much do we have out there? So that's where the original list started, and has been cleaned up and cleaned up and cleaned up. For us to have created this list was just a guideline, because remember, we can't say, for example, Rowan Road or any of these, Clearwood or any of them, we can't say that we're going to put that in the budget and we're going to do it. Because the first thing is we don't own that street. And I will tell you, because there are some of these streets on here that we think should be taken and something done to it, the people don't want us. The people don't want their street owned by us. They don't want that. It is their street, it's their private street, they own it, and that's it. Now, if we're gonna go down a road of telling them what they've got to do to their road to get it up to standards, that's a complete different situation. You know, that's something that we'd have to get into, but so for us to pick which one of these roads we want to do and put in a budget, the first problem is the people have got to give it to us, and there's got to be some cooperation there. You know, there's got to be cooperation there of they're going to give it to us and not sell us right-of-ways and do all that kind of stuff. As far as I'm concerned, they should not only do that, but they should contribute in some of the expense that the road district pays, because it is bringing their house up to an improved value, because now they have a much better street there than what they did. So with all that being said, also, you know, for us, originally what the thought was, and I say originally back a number of years ago, was just to create a list that this would be the ones that we would say are the top priorities. Who goes out and talks to these people? I mean, that's something we've never come down to. I think it should be the road district, because I think they should do that. I think that's them. Now, my wife wouldn't like this, and she's the executive director of that, but that don't matter. I think it should be them if they're going to spend that money. If we want to do it, if individuals want to do it on roads that are within their wards or whatever. But again, remember, we can't pick a road out and say we're going to do that, because the people own that road. They may not want us there, and that's something we've got to consider. Getting into the individual quotes that we have here, we can talk about that separately, or is that going to be talked about at this time?
Whatever you desire, sir.
Well, I have a problem with Clearwood. I have a problem with Clearwood's quote, and I have a problem with even Clearwood being this high on the priority. The Clearwood is the back entrance to all those houses. It is not their main drive. It is not their main street. Their houses front other streets. This Clearwood is, from what I've seen and what I drove, is a back entrance to all these homes. So it's not, I have a problem with that being, you know, that being something we have high on our priority. I wasn't involved in making the priority list, and it wasn't my part of it, but that's my 2 cents on that road. The quote is unbelievably high, but that's neither here nor there. I just have a problem with it being not being the main front entrance because every one of those houses has a good street and has access to a good street. So that's my 2 cents worth.
All right, thank you. Alderman Osteen.
Actually, Kevin touched on something I was going to bring up. We're being asked as a board to give our opinions on which of these roads are priorities, and I thought, well, let's do a 180. Tell me which of these citizens that reside on these roads are coming to us wanting us to make it a priority. Are any of these roads, all the citizens, have they contacted the city and stated, we would like the city to take over the maintenance of this road, resurface this road, et cetera, et cetera? I'm just curious. Because as we're going through all these private roads, and we as a board are saying, these are our priorities, I'm just curious, from the citizen standpoint, what are their priorities?
Amy Lane, which is the one that we have in the budget this year, I believe we are missing just 1 or 2 easements for that road. So we have, that's the only road on this list that I can say that we've spoke to all the residents. And I actually spoke with the person that owes us the easement earlier today, and I know we're going to get that. So just from that conversation, I can say that that one, all of those people, and that one's in the budget, all of those people are in agreement with this. But beyond that, no, sir.
That was us approaching them. I'm just curious if on their own, any of these homeowners have contacted the city and stated, we would like the city to look into taking over our road.
I don't know the answer to that.
Alderman Ross.
I will just say that at least on Amy Lane and Clearwood, those were brought to me. Clearwood, to be quite honest, was worked on by the road district 8 or 10 or 12 years ago. Go ahead. And so there has been in the past.
I'm just curious. I mean, we're making a priority list of roads we
Right.
think that we need to take over. I'm just curious if any of the citizens of those roads are coming to us saying, yes, we want this to happen, or please make this happen.
I don't know about recently, but there has been over time, yes. Okay.
Alderman Becker.
I would think we would use, I believe Cochrane has developed a pavement master plan. Maybe I don't have the right title there. I would think we would use some combination of that and what Bob's saying, and then decide make a priority list, and then go get bids. I'm a little disturbed that we've spent some money to get bids on roads we have no idea if we can get ownership to, which to me is a little bit of a waste of money, but that's how I would do this.
Alderman Rucker, did you have a comment there?
I just want to say that typically, Bob, what has historically happened in the past, okay, is people would come have come to our previous street people, our previous engineer, and we would come to him and complain about the road. You know, blah, blah, blah.
That's kind of what I'm looking at, or looking
you know,
for.
This is not a city road. What do you mean it's not a city road? Well, I thought it was a city road. Well, then they'd get into that dialogue or that discussion that it wasn't a city road, and then, oh, okay, well, I want it to be a city road. Well, it's got to be brought up to certain, well, we can't afford it. Well, you know, and then they would match up the special road district, and them two would have a chat, and they would say, oh, well, you know, this is what we want done, and then the conversation would be started, and they would come up with a roughly of a number, and then it would move forward from there, and then, you know, the city historically would help out and do the engineering, the road district would fund the construction portion of it, and that's how it occurred. So that's usually how it happened. The people would come that way. Now, I can't say it's all of it, but that's probably how most of it got started.
One other comment I just want to add real quick for Alderman Becker. Alderman Becker, we were directed to provide you guys with quotes for Aver at the budget workshops last year. So that's why you have those quotes in here. Clearwood, of the top 4, is the only road that has not been improved and turned over to the city. So that is a road that Alderman Ross had come to me with and pointed that out to us. And so we added that road as an option for the board, as we have already done 3 of the other 4 top options. So that's why you have those quotes before you, sir, is based upon the direction that I had received previously.
All right. Anyone else? Oh, I'm sorry, Kerry.
No, I just to kind of piggyback on what Alderman Rucker said, because a lot of the times when we have these situations, I get them, you know, they come to me first, and I would have sent them to the street departments. A lot of time, what it ends up being is new homeowners in these particular subdivisions on these particular streets, and they've come from a city or what have you, and they're not accustomed to a road not being owned by the community. And it honestly typically happened either during the rainy season or after the first snow, and they wonder why they don't get their snow plowed. I mean, so that's kind of what instigates a lot of folks to come in and say, ask us questions about roads. And then in those particular cases, a lot of times, typically they'll be fired up enough where they will go approach their neighbors and say, hey, did you know this is the case? And we can, and in the past, that is how a lot of our projects have gotten started, is just, something like that taking place. So.
Very good. Alderman Ross.
So just to start back at the beginning, when I ran for office the first time, one of the things that I was most passionate about at that time was the fact that the number of gravel roads that residents of Osage Beach still live on, okay? And the reason I knew about that was because of Clearwood, okay? And Kevin, to your point, I tend to disagree. The Clearwood Lane, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 houses, their front door faces Clearwood Lane. There is a road below, and originally when it was platted, probably by Phyllis and her husband, they expected those houses to be built with the front door facing Greenwood Circle. But it was downhill and it didn't occur that way. And what I was told over the years, probably by Mike and Linda Craig, was that became a work road because they spun them the other way. And so that's how it became. But I can tell you that their front doors face Clearwood Lane. But Clearwood Lane was the reason that I was concerned. I had watched what had happened at Clearwood Lane in trying to work with the Special Road District before I got on the board. It was probably back in 2010 or 12. And because you needed 8 people to come up with 10% of the cost, it just fell apart. And I didn't particularly care for that approach, to be quite honest. And as far as the community or those people on these gravel roads contributing to the project on top of the Special Road District, I disagree. They've been paying their taxes for as long as they've owned it to the Special Road District. Every year when you get a tax bill, there is an assessment for the Osage Beach Special Road District, whether you live on a private street or a public street. Okay? And I believe they've already paid their taxes, or someone has on that property over the years. And I don't see the reason why there needs to be 10%. Now, other people may disagree. Ron may disagree. He's been on that for quite a while. But I don't understand why that 10% needs to be out there. I've had that conversation with Fred and Ron. But in the end, from a priority standpoint, what we attempted to do, Nick and I, was to wrap our arms around what gravel roads were still private streets in the city of Osage Beach, and what was the priority from how many people did they service, especially full-time residents. At that time, I think Mike was in the water department, and I went to Mike or someone over there and started trying to figure out who was using water on these streets, because that was one of the things that played in. There may be a road out there where they're all part-time, they don't live here most of the time. And so we try to use quite a criteria. And when I originally put this all together, some of that was in there. I haven't looked for it. It's been, 4, 5, 6 years, 5 years, I guess, since some of this work was done. Personally, I'll just say that it drives me crazy that people in Osage Beach live on gravel roads. I wish we could figure out how to go faster. With the post office road was paved, but it had such a Rowan Road, as I call it, Post Office Road. It was paved, but at that time, because we had so much feedback, we felt like it went to the top of the list. Okay, as a matter of fact, Amy Road is paved. Okay, and Nick and I argued, and I finally we flipped a coin, and I think he won. That I thought Clearwood should be higher than Amy Lane because it was paved. Okay, there's people out here. Everything else, Wren Lane was gravel. Those folks been living on gravel roads. The Dorhauer's probably been down there 10 or 15 years living on a gravel road before we got it done, okay? And so that's the concept of what we're trying to accomplish and why these were prioritized that way. Now, as far as the pricing, I'll just say that one of the things on Clearwood Lane, I don't think we should spend that kind of money, but I don't know that we need that type of road, okay? I tried to do some percentages, and I don't know that it really lays over, but probably Clearwood Lane could be done for $250 or $260, depending on the amount of curb and gutter that may or may not be necessary. We may have to do curb and gutter on one side, but much like we can reduce the cost on Aver, I think we can reduce the cost on Clearwood. I think that one of the goals here is to try to partner more effectively with the Osage Beach Special Road District around what we hear from citizens and the things that we have observed over time that would make the biggest impact with the road district's money. They've been great partners, okay? And this is an opportunity for us to provide feedback. It isn't necessarily that we're approving that Aver versus Clearwood is going to be done, but to at least provide some public input to the road district about how, as they have funds available and as they have people that want to give up their roads, which I agree, Kevin, that is a problem, or that is a portion of it, that we can be most effective. And one of the challenges, I'll tell you, and Clearwood Lane's a perfect example. I've talked to people on Clearwood Lane for years. The folks that have left used to want it, and the folks that have come in still want it, okay? But what they really want is to see a bunch of stakes out there and figure out where's the road going to be before they say what they're willing to give up, okay? Because they know where they drive right now, but that may be very different than where the road is platted and where it may be turned over and how it may affect them, okay? And so trying to make this decision up front, and that's something that I was at a meeting, I think the first one Mike came to talking to the road district, how could we just get some survey stakes out there that generally tell us so these people could see what they might be signing up for? So that's just some of the complexity of this process that we're trying to work through. So with that said, I'm not sure, the only guidance that I would ask for as we leave out of here is, can we get a reduced estimate on Clearwood sometime? Because I think that's kind of, I don't know that I'll call it the Rolls Royce, but it's at least a Cadillac. And I think that there's an opportunity to have a good Ford or Chevy. But other than that, I'm curious any of the board's thoughts otherwise, because that was some of the history and intentions and how this all evolved.
All right, anyone else? Alderman Rucker.
Remember, when we talk about this, historically, the road district has paid for all the construction. We do not have a vote on that. We don't have a vote on that. That's their money, that's their choice. We have provided the engineering, and that's just a piece that we've done. And this was when we had engineering in-house. We provided that engineering service, okay? So that's what we've done, but we don't have a vote in, we might think it's a great project, but if they don't, then we have to make the choice. Do we want to spend city money on a private road beside the engineering expense? Again, historically, that's what we've done. That doesn't mean we have to continue it that way, but. And the other thing is we did run into an interesting situation, and I know that the attorney is aware of it, and we definitely need to do things a little different than we have in the past as far as before we start construction, because we have worked on roads that we didn't own, and we worked on them and we didn't own them until after we'd spent all the money. And we could have very easily had some of the landowners at that point said, nope, I changed my mind because we didn't do some things that we should have. And this is something that we have to improve upon, whether it's a TD transfer or letters of intent or whatever the legal counsel will advise. But that is a step we got to do early up front that we haven't done, and right now, we have a program or a project out there that we have spent a lot of money on that may not happen, and that's the ledges, because we spent money on doing all the engineering work, and there is a big problem with that road that they've run into because all the ducks in a row were not there and all the T's were not crossed before we proceeded forward with it. So we learned from that one. We have to make sure moving forward.
All right, anyone else? Alderman Osteen.
I've got a homework project for I'm not sure who. And this is coming from experience with my job. Anytime there is a property that conveys in a sale that is located on a private road with 2 or more homes, in order to secure the financing for that purchase, they have to provide a shared road agreement. That shared road agreement has to be filed with the county, and it should outline how that road is to be maintained by the property owners on that road. So we've got a list of roads here that we're saying are private, and we want to basically take them over. Well, I'm curious, can somebody pull the shared road agreements on all of these streets with the county? Because for all we know, some of these homeowners may already have something in their shared road agreement regarding maintenance, upgrades, et cetera, to these roads.
What's that called, Bob?
Shared road agreement.
Shared road agreement?
Just like if you're on a property and you share a well with a neighbor, you have to have a
a...
shared well agreement that basically outlines your rights to that, just like the road, how it's going to be maintained, upkept, any upgrades planned. Usually they'll also designate monies for that upkeep as an X dollars per household at X amount of times per year. They are always, as part of property transactions, you have to have that shared road agreement or you cannot basically close on that purchase.
Quarter of deed?
County should be with the county recorder. But we always pull them though via parcel number or property address with the county. I'm not sure if you go in just getting the road per se, so I'm not sure how you pull that.
Interesting.
All right. A lot of times that would be on the original plat or in the subdivision
Correct.
regulations.
So I'm using that from experience just to help us with these decisions of, let's look at these agreements they already have in place as the owners of that road and see if they're just not meeting what has been filed that they're supposed to be doing, or if some of them, and I've seen this before, where basically they have agreed to, we are pooling money at X amount of dollars per year because our intent is by this year, we're going to asphalt this road.
Alderman
Just
Ross.
food for thought.
Just one question as we go forward. Kevin brings up a good point about the fact that we don't own these roads and the special road district tends to fund all the construction. We have supplied the engineering. For years, we supplied the engineering, but they didn't get any engineering. So that was, it just didn't occur. Let's just put it that way for whatever reason. But what I wonder, and I don't know that anybody can answer this tonight, but if we decided, for example, let's just call it Aver, because that's the big one out there that provides very few people road, but is a very expensive road. If we said, hey, you know, if you complete the road and bring it to us, we'll reimburse you. I'm not sure whether I think we could probably do that too. And I'm not necessarily trying to advocate for Aver Road, but it's an example of where I think Aver Road, if we use the $900,000 number, is about 4 years worth of the special road district's funding. Well, if we're going to wait on the special road district to get Aver Road, if we were to assume that was our highest, and I'm not advocating for that. Personally, I think Clearwood is, honestly. But anyway, at the end of the day, we have to understand that dynamic too, okay? And whether or not the road district could ever get to it. And so could we, for example, set money aside, and once you bring it to us, then we could reimburse you potentially. I don't know if that works legally or not, but it's a thought.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Well, this was a discussion item, so we've had a discussion. Anything else you need, Mike?
I think he's looking for direction.
Yeah.
What now?
Sir, I am looking for direction. I don't feel like I've gotten that direction yet, but if we want to take this offline or bring it back.
Can we table it and you bring it back maybe to the
Well,
next meeting?
it's not
Once we
a
get more
motion,
information.
it's simply a discussion item tonight, and that's what we had, so, yeah.
I would like to see the shared road agreements and see who has them filed and what those state before we go into prioritizing any of these roads.
Okay. All right.
No problem.
All right, very good, thank you. All right, we're going to move on now to staff communications first, and right back to you, Mr. Welty.
All right, I do have a couple things. I've got some good news, but I've also got some bad news. I'm going to start with the bad news. So we have bid out the pavement maintenance program for 2022 several times already this year. And up until the last time I bid it out, I did not get any responses. I did finally get a response this last time we bid it out. The budget for this project was right around $1 million. The one bid I received was for $1.8 million. So with that in mind, and at the recommendation of Cochran Engineering, in accordance with our purchasing policy, I asked Gina to reject those bids. And our plan right now is to just basically move the PPMP plan, pavement preventative maintenance plan, back 1 year. So we are going to take a different ideology of bidding it out. We're going to bid it out in December, and we're going to bid it out in 3 parts. Instead of doing it all at once this time, which obviously did not work for us, we're going to bid the slurry seal out separately. We're going to bid the asphalt portion out separately. And if you remember, we discussed the Nova chip at last time's budget workshop. We're going to bid that out separately. And on that one, we're going to add an alternate, and we're going to see if we can get some competition between the asphalt people and the Nova chip people and see what might work best for us along those lines. So kind of bad news, we're not going to be doing the pavement maintenance program this year. The cost was just way too excessive and almost, well, basically 80% more than what we budgeted. So putting that off 1 year, and then we'll just continue with the project that the board has blessed, the plan that the board has blessed, just kind of 1 year down from where we were. So that's the first piece of bad news. The second piece is not really bad news, but Parkway Extension. So I have an update on the Parkway Extension. Anderson Engineering is working on that project for us. They completed their plans a month or so ago. But as you know, this is a cost share with the state of Missouri. And there are a lot of hoops to jump through with the state. This is my first time going through a cost share, so I'm kind of learning along the lines with this. There are 4 separate approvals that have to happen through the state. We are about halfway through that. My project manager with Anderson Engineering tells me that he believes that by the end of October, we'll have full approval to move forward. But that kind of puts us a little late in the season to start anything. On top of that, there's also Bike Fest, and we were thinking that if we did do this project, we were kind of gonna get in their way. The good news here is that the cost share agreement does not end until the end of next year. So if we bid this project out over the winter and get this project going in the spring, we'll still get the cost share money, and by the time we get to Bike Fest next year, it'll all be done. So that project is not going to happen this year, but as I said, it will be bid out over the winter, and it'll happen next spring. Then I'll end with the good news. I want to talk a little bit about the Park Master Plan. So you're going to see the citizen survey that's going to go along with this come out probably the end of next week. And we're going to start a pretty heavy advertising campaign. We're going to be doing some press releases, some Facebook, website, in the paper, getting started on that. And then on September 1st, which is the Thursday of the first board meeting in September, all day that day, our consultant will be here in the building, meeting with stakeholders, meeting with community members, and getting their input in addition to the survey that we're doing online. And then that evening, we will also have a public forum for the public to come to the board meeting if they couldn't make it, if they couldn't provide input for the survey, or if they couldn't make it during the day to meet with our consultant, they can come to the board meeting that night. After the public hearing is over, our representative for this, his name is Darren Barr, will be updating the board on the progress of the Park Master Plan and allow all of you to give any input that you may have beyond what he shares with you to the project. The project is currently on schedule. This is really just an update. This will not be the final for this project. We still fully believe that by the end of October, we will have the final full master plan in front of you guys. But I just want to give you guys an update. If you have any questions about that, I'm happy to answer them, or you're welcome to email me with any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mike. City Clerk, Tara Barrett.
I don't have anything, thank you.
City Attorney, Ed Rucker.
Thank you guys for Bill 1773. Alderman Osteen, I will tell council that from now on, they better pay particular attention to writing a clear title that makes sense to real people as opposed to just lawyer jargon between us. That bill, we will send a copy of it to the county collector, to Carrie Bell, and to Doug Stone, counsel for Osage Beach Commons, and that project is now a go.
Very good, thank you. Chief Davis?
Nothing, sir.
City Planner, Kerry Patterson.
I have nothing more for the group tonight.
Thank you. Public Works Director, Kevin Crooks.
Sorry. Just a couple quick thoughts to talk about taking private roads or roads into inventory, improving the city standards. Twice last month, I met with two separate homeowners on two different streets to talk about improvements. And when I do that, I bring out the plats and I bring out a wheel and a tape and I kind of show them basically based on on city plats what that street would look like. And we kind of walk it through. I'm neither selling it, trying to encourage or discourage. I'm saying, well, if you're all in agreement, we can talk this up and we can put it on our radar. So, but both times when I explained exactly how that would look, how many trees are going to be removed, how close the road edge is going to be to your house now, I'm going to take some of this driveway out to make a cul-de-sac. Or for instance, in this one street, there was boat trailers parked where the cul-de-sac would be. And well, that's where we park our boats, our boat trailers. Well, that's got to go. Well, we don't want the cul-de-sac. We just want the road improved. Like, you have to be able to turn a plow truck around in here. You have to be able to turn around a fire truck. And in both instances, to my point, they didn't want anything to do with it when I was done. And again, I wasn't trying to discourage. I was just talking through it. So there is a fair amount of resistance to improving streets to city standards, and that's a thing for sure. The other thought I had is we've had since yesterday, we've had a lift station issue for the lift station that serves Quick Car on the Parkway. That went till about 7 o'clock last night. We started again at 7 a.m. today, and I just got a text about 15 minutes ago that we got her done. I just want to give a shout out to Public Works. It's not only the sewer department, we had most or all the water department there as well. It's hot, it's uncomfortable, it's sewer. So I just want to give them all the props that they deserved and how they are comfortable with being uncomfortable, and go team. So that's all I have.
Good. All right, thank you very much. So it's going to be open tomorrow then? Quick Car? Excellent. Nice job, thank you. All right, next we have, Mike left, didn't Michael left? All right, Airport Manager Ty Dinsdale?
Nothing, sir.
Nothing. Parks Manager Eric Gregory?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. Mike already gave you an update on the Park Master Plan. We're very excited about that, see what it brings. I'd like to thank everybody that came out for the fishing derby Tuesday night. It was a perfect evening. We had almost 80 people in attendance, including 52 kids. Everybody had a great time. Thanks to the staff and volunteers, including our new Economic Development Director, for baiting hooks all evening and untangling fishing poles. So just a reminder, the citywide rummage sale is coming up September 17th. The Parks Department is coordinating that. You can get the application on the city website or go to the City Hall. We'd be happy to print one off for you and drop it off there, make payment. $15 per booth at City Hall if you want a space, or $10 per residence, which will include your location on the map. Also, as a reminder, the annual Fall Festival event is coming up October 8th. We are continuing to schedule that. It's going to be bigger and better than last year. If you know of vendors that are interested, please have them contact us. And then continued with maintenance projects that we didn't have time for during Little League season, tournament season. We're starting an overhead power line project next week at Phoenix, where we'll be burying overhead power lines. So we're going to start trenching for that, and some fencing repairs, and just a long list of maintenance. So that's about it.
All right. Thank you, Eric. Cochrane Engineering, Dave Van Leer.
Thank you. Just an item to update on tonight was the Industrial Drive project is underway. Maybe you've had a chance to go out and see it. Going on right now is demolition of the existing street and installation of storm sewers. So we're just kind of getting started out there, but the project is underway, and so far so good.
Very good, thank you. Thanks. Economic Development Specialist Mitchell Moon.
The Office of Economic Development has been pretty busy this week. We launched the first marketing campaign out of the office. It is posted on the city's social media pages. This highlights International Beer Day, which is on August the 5th. There's quite a few fun videos out there, so y'all check them out. At the bottom and in the videos are listed the participating businesses. They are Backwater Jack's, Bandanas Barbecue, Lake of the Ozarks Brewing Company, EC's Bar and Grill, Outback Steakhouse, Wicked Willie's Sports Grill, Wobbly Boots Roadhouse, Dog Days, Domenico's, Lake Billiards, Bowl, Moore, Lanes 2, Tire Biters, Applebee's, Harmony Cheese Store, Vista Grande, and Chevy's Bar and Grill. So this Friday, tomorrow, I encourage the aldermen, I encourage the constituents listening at home, please go support your local businesses, support your business owners here at the lake, and keep your dollars local. Again, International Beer Day, we're highlighting the hospitality industry here at the Lake of the Ozarks.
All right, very good. Thank you. IT Specialist, Michael Bean, do you have anything?
No, sir. Nothing else to add. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on to the Alderman Communication, Alderman Rucker.
Yes, well, the first thing I have to piggyback on what Mitch said is if you didn't see today's Facebook, which I had been watching him, it was pretty neat because the chief's out there is telling everybody that if they don't drink responsive, he's going to let them be behind his bars. So I thought that was pretty neat, and I've been seeing those each and every day, and I think it's a neat tool that you put together there. It's very good. Second thing I have is I hope everybody listened to Kerry Patterson in his presentation of the ordinances and some of his justifications. Some of his words like we're not doing, our ordinance says one thing and we're doing something else because that's been our past practice. And we've got things in our ordinances that have been outdated for a while. That's why I've been on the band page for years to get into our ordinances for those reasons, so that we can bring our ordinances up to today's terminologies. And yes, so we are doing things the way that needs to be done, and that's great. And it's not the way our ordinances said it. We wanted to do it 20 years ago because we didn't want to do it that way 20 years ago. So that's the reason that we need to continually go through the ordinances. I actually spent about an hour and a half a day on some ordinance and started scribbling, and finally I just tore it up and said, nope, I'm going to rewrite this one from scratch because it's so different on what we're doing. So that's why we need to do the ordinances and get them up to date. So I applaud you, Carrie, for doing that. Thank you. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Alderman Schuman.
I was just going to comment on the kids fishing day. I actually took my littles out to it, and it was a great event. You guys were working really hard out there because there was a lot of line tangling. So, and then I also got a chance to talk with Eric about future plans on other park events that they're going to have. So I'm very excited about that. And that kind of piggybacks with it seems like the social media presence is a lot more active lately, which is great. I love being able to have something that I can share on my Facebook page for all the people that I don't get to talk to every single day about events. And there's a lot of people that don't realize a lot of the stuff that the city puts on. So I'm really appreciative to everybody who spends the time making those posts and updating and making the flyers that you can easily screenshot and text to your friends and stuff, because that is a really good tool to communicate and get people more involved. And just thank you for all the work you guys do.
Thank you very much. Alderman Becker.
Just a shout out to the Public Works for getting Quick Car back online. Thank you.
Alderman Osteen.
I have two things this evening. First of all, I would like to congratulate all of those that won their election races this past Tuesday, with a special shout out to the sales tax initiative that benefits our local fire protection district. So congratulations on that. Secondly, I apologize for looking a little rough today. I spent the entire day down on the Strip playing tourists with my 12-year-old nephew, who I've had for a week. Having him, though, reminded me that despite the perception that the lake is a big party atmosphere, the lake truly is a family-oriented destination, because we took full advantage of all those family-oriented things that we need to promote more often. We rode the go-karts. We did the putt-putt golf. We went to the city park. We rode the Celebration Cruise. I took them today to the Malted Monkey to do their ropes course. We did basically just about everything. We did Big Surf. We've done a lot of things that we forget to promote as a family-oriented location. So I just wanted to give a shout out to say, yes, sometimes we need to step back from the parties and the bars and the restaurants and really look at what we've got around us and think about how much more we can improve on that. That's all.
That's excellent, thank you. When you said you spent the day down on the Strip, I didn't know where that was going, so. So that's excellent.
Yes.
Alderman Ross, excuse me, Alderman Rose.
I can appreciate Alderman Osteen's comment about family. I work part-time just for fun at this Convention Visitors Bureau, and we've been having quite a few families coming in, and they say, what is there to do for my children? And so I just expound on it, and of course give them the vacation guide, and of course I'm very much aware about the attractions and whatever, and so it's been very interesting, and yes, we are a family destination. On another note also, I would like to kudos out that I saw on Facebook, second quarter employee winners, the administration of Pam Campbell and the Police Emergency Department, Laura McDonald, and Public Works, Stevie Hines. I thought that was very nice to put that on Facebook. And of course, even pictures that Kevin alluded to about how hard-working employees that we have in Public Works and Water and Sewer, that they're out there in this ungodly heat, but they're dedicated, and we really, really appreciate it. The only other thing I have is a reminder, August the 11th at 4 o'clock, the hardware store. True Value open house, ribbon cutting, I should say. And I think it'd be nice to have some representation there from the city. We're really glad that they are on the West End and have all the, anyway, it's a very nice store. If you haven't been, I think I brought that up at the last meeting, but just put that on your calendar, and 4 o'clock next Thursday, I guess it is, it'll be the 11th, yeah. That's all I've got, thank you.
Very good, thank you. Now Alderman Ross, please.
Thanks. Sorry, I'm writing down Nick's True Value because I might actually be able to make that one. First of all, recognition to Mitch, and I think Janice helped you too with the beer social media thing. I think that's great. And I'm, your how would I say, your energy that you're bringing to economic development, the ways that you're starting, you're doing great. Thank you, and make sure Janice knows too. And thanks Public Works. I didn't know what was going on with Quick Car, but glad that that's up. I do have a question. The pavement maintenance plan, as I'm going to call it, I think there's a more formal deal. Dave, you all put that together, Cochran did a few years, 2 or 3 years ago, back before, probably when oil was about $30 a barrel instead of $90 a barrel. And I'm wondering if we, as much as I think it's got good priorities in it, does the pricing need to be revisited in your mind?
I think, I'd have to go back and look. I think last year when we were doing budget workshops, the projects that were under consideration for budget, those estimates were updated. The short answer is yes. Those estimates need to continually be updated, and they need to be updated again, obviously, for trying to incorporate into the 2023 budget.
And I don't know the best way, and there's certainly no direction, but it's something Mike, you and Dave might want to talk about and try to figure out. Because we've got some projections that are out there that are 2 years old, and the world has changed a lot in 2 years, so, or 2 to 3 years old, to be quite honest, probably when they were first put on paper before they ever came to us. So, because it may make a lot of difference in how we look at a lot of things over the next 4 or 5 years, especially with that fund, the transportation fund. And then the last thing is you mentioned Bike Festival on 9/14, Wednesday, September 14th at 5 p.m. Wing Fest is back. Rotaries, we're going to put it back together.
Right.
It's going to be at the Regalia. If things go well and we have good weather, it will be outside, poolside. If it isn't good weather, we can still go back inside, but we've had a 2-year hiatus between COVID and wing prices and everything else. But we put it all back together. So we were on the radio today, myself and Lisa Coleman from Central Bank, who partners with the Lake Ozark Rotary, to put that on. But mark your calendars. Tickets are out at the Central Bank locations now. There'll be more to come, but hopefully we'll see everybody there. I think it's one of the coolest community events we have, and we've missed it for 2 years. So that's all I have.
Great.
Very good. I just have a couple of things. First of all, going back to Mitch, you're getting that was fun filming those. Like told everybody in the staff meeting this morning, it was kind of fun at LZ Brewing because it was at the end of the day, so we actually got to drink our props, which was kind of nice. It was kind of nice. And thank you, Kevin, and Public Works, too. I actually had a phone conversation with Mike, the owner at Quick Car, and he was very appreciative. I mean, bad things happen. I mean, things happen beyond our control, and of course, as a business in Osage Beach, he had a lot of revenue. Every day he's closed, lost, but he was very understanding, very appreciative, and he appreciated that you were on it, so thank you very much. I am going on vacation, first time in a long time, leaving tomorrow, so I'm going to miss the ribbon cutting. I'm going to miss the opening of Hobby Lobby, which I believe is the 8th. So shop out there. True Value is great. I've been over there. Chris is doing a wonderful job there. But I'll be out of town all next week, out of state, but I'll have my phone with me. I'm going to come in tomorrow and sign whatever I need to sign, and then I'm on the way. And then the last thing I have, you might be wondering what this is. The city of Osage Beach received a gift, and this is, and we kind of wrote it out just to make sure that we're all legal, and it's a very generous gift, but I just want to announce we received a gift. It's from the developer of the Osage Beach Commons, the Steinberg Group, from St. Louis. He went to commentate the opening of the shopping center this month. So what I have here, this is an autographed baseball, Stan Musial.
Wow.
Oh, cool.
And he told me that he, what's that?
That go in my office?
Nope, no.
Negatory.
No, but it's given to the city, and but Ed helped me write out a couple things. Stan Musial, he was a member of the St. Louis Cardinals from 1941 to 1963. He missed the 1945 season serving in the Navy. How cool is that? I mean, a man
That's
like
lovely.
that. He hit 475 home runs. He had a career batting average of a .331, three-time MVP, three-time World Series champion, first ballot inductee into the Baseball Hall of Fame. And so I'm going to deliver this to the city administrator and asking that she displays it in the lobby for all of our visitors and our staff to enjoy.
Awesome.
So anyway, that was very, very nice. So
It might be poetic justice if you had trusted it to the assistant city administrator sitting in for her today.
Cubs fan?
Or maybe the city clerk
couldn't
has
hear
the
what he
key to
said.
put it in the thing.
Yeah,
That
well-
might even be better yet.
Well, and the joke
Say-
there is he's a big Cub fan, so,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Mike Welty, you want to go play catch?
So is Alderman Becker.
Nothing but respect for Stan Musial, one of the 10 greatest baseball players to ever play the game, so.
And if I remember correctly, wasn't he one of the first owners of the hotel down here?
I don't know.
Yeah, I believe so, Grand Glaze Inn.
Inn of the Grand Glaze.
Yes, yes, he
Yes,
was.
absolutely.
Yes, so,
Wow.
beautiful thing. You go down there, it's like some pretty cool pictures, so.
Yeah,
All right,
all right.
with that, next, pursuant to section 610.021, to close the meeting and move into an executive session, we need a roll call vote, please.
You need a motion first?
Nope, do we have a motion to move into closed session? Alderman Becker, do we have a second?
Second.
Alderman Schuman. Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Becker?
Yes.
Alderman Schuman?
Yes.
Alderman Recker?
Yes.
Alderman Ross?
Yes.
Alderman Morose?
Yes.
Alderman Osteen?
I guess. It's the second time today. I'll use that answer.
Closed session.
All right, thank you.
Use the restrooms.
Make sure that it makes it right.
Okay. I read it before I go in session or before I leave?